Good morning once again. May I request everybody to settle down? We'll start the program now. Door. Good morning and welcome to the Symposium on the Internet Economy. To officially start this program, let us welcome the Secretary General of PECC, Mr. Eduardo Pedrosa.
Good morning, everybody. It's an early morning and it's been a very, very busy time. Ambassador Del Rosario, Mr. Tanjin, senior officials, distinguished guests, let me begin by acknowledging some of the people we have in the room in addition to the senior officials. We have the former chair of the APEC TEL working group who will be moderating a panel. Hi, Diana. And then we also have the just starting chair of TEL, Andre, and we have former conveners of the Electronic Commerce Steering Group. I think one of the reasons for that is that this is a really important and all-embracing set of issues that we have to address, and it's critical to have all of the relevant working groups participating in this discussion. So let me thank you for taking the time and staying on beyond TEL to be here. With deference to our keynote speaker, I just wanted to explain why we are here today and why PEC in particular is making this effort to address some of these issues. During the public-private dialogue on services held during Sum1 a few months ago, we were shown a remarkable video. Is Jane Drake-Brockman in the audience? Jane, somewhere? She's probably outside having coffee. But she showed us a video of the things that we didn't know. And so here are some of the facts that she showed us in this video. While it took the radio 38 years to reach an audience of 50 million people, it took the internet just 4 years. And it took Facebook just 2 years, and there are now 10 billion internet devices running around the world. So the central point that I took from that dialogue, as well as the multi-stakeholder dialogue held in Beijing on delivering innovative development a year ago, was the pace of change. It's incredibly rapid, and as the policy community, we are still responding to those innovations. And these innovations are coming from businesses, large and small, across the entire region. A few months ago, we had a conference in Singapore, and we were very fortunate to have Ambassador Del Rosario there. And even though it wasn't really formally part of the agenda, the internet economy kept on coming up. Our keynote speaker had been invited. He is the former Minister of Commerce and current Minister of Energy from Thailand, and he was going to talk about the impact of energy prices on the regional economy. But he decided instead to talk a little bit about his daughter. His daughter's a young teenager, and she was selling her products that she made on the internet. And what he said to her, Granddaddy, you're a minister. Can't you make these internet speeds faster? So it's just everywhere. Now, there are dozens, hundreds of stories of these SMEs and micro enterprises using the internet to go global immediately. The last time I spoke at the PPD, I had a panel, and the market capitalization of those panelists was something in the range of $800 billion US, around the size of a G20 economy. This time, we've actually made a very conscious effort to not have the big boys on the panels, but hear from some of the dynamic entrepreneurs who are trying to make it big in the region. So perhaps from one of you speakers, we will have a future Sergey Brin or Pierre Ondiao or Jack Ma amongst us from the region. Now, with this rapid pace of change, what I wanted to emphasize was the need for this type of engagement between the business innovators and the regulators and the policymakers. Things are moving so quickly that if we rush to regulate, we might strangle the very innovations that we want to promote. So I recall, Tanjin, the example that came out during the multi-stakeholder dialogue of the development of Alipay. Alibaba's not a financial company, but they started to provide funding for some of the supply chain people, some of the people using Alibaba, the Alibaba platform. How do you regulate that? Who do you talk to? Is it PECC? Is it SAIC? It's a very complex set of issues, and it cuts across not just for Alibaba and others, but almost everybody. And that's, again, why these dialogues are so important. They bring together all of the different agencies and businesses working on these sets of issues. And lastly, as you can tell from the issues on the program, this is not a discrete part of our lives anymore. You can't silo off ICT or the internet anywhere. We're going to be talking about healthcare, education, finance, trade. All of our lives have become digital. How do we cope with that? And what are the right policies for making this work for all of us? This event is part of a broader effort from the PECC to contribute to APEC's initiative on the internet economy. We established a task force composed of experts from business, the academia, and from government to think through these issues. APEC will be addressing these issues through the Ad-Hoc Steering Committee and as well as its ongoing work in the working groups. And we hope to provide you with some independent analysis and recommendations on the way forward. Let me now turn to Tanjin, who's going to moderate the keynote speech for us. He is well known to all of you, but what I discovered during that multi-stakeholder dialogue was, we know him as an erudite diplomat, but I guess in a past life he had a penchant for rock music, and he had invited the spokesperson for Baidu, Mr. Kaiser Kuo, to speak with his long hair and ponytail, but he was a very articulate speaker on the importance of the internet economy in all of our lives. Tanjin, please.
Thank you, Eduardo. Yeah. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to moderate the opening session. Our keynote speaker is Ambassador Laura Rosario. She is our SORM chair, and I think we all know her. I need no introduction. China was the host of APEC last year, and the Philippines this year. And now Laura and I are now sitting together at this opening. So what's the message? I think the continuity of the internet economy agenda, that's my take. So Professor Eduardo, I wonder whether this is your design. Thank you very much. In 2014, we introduced the topic, internet economy, and discussions over the year, including a multi-stakeholder dialogue, as Eduardo mentioned just now, crystallized into an APEC Initiative of Cooperation to promote internet economy, adopted by the leaders last November. So why the internet economy? Because it relates to the three priority areas in APEC China year, namely, first, the regional economic integration, second, innovation, reform, and growth, third, connectivity. And especially, the internet economy cuts through innovation, reform, and growth, which is the second priority, and I believe the core of our time. The internet economy has many important features, like low cost, high efficiency, ubiquity. It not only brings forth new sectors, it also transforms the old ones. So it is not really the sunrise industry vis-à-vis the sunset industries. In his annual work report, my Premier Li Keqiang talked a lot about the Internet Plus, that is, to integrate all industries, including traditional industries, through internet technology. And now we are in 2015, the Philippines year of APEC. The theme is inclusive growth, and 4 priority areas: regional economic integration, SME, human capital development, sustainable and resilient communities. And I believe the internet economy can contribute and contributes greatly. It connects remote areas, it empowers vulnerable and disadvantaged groups like women, young people, people with disabilities, and the poor. The internet economy is really about inclusive growth. It helps SMEs to compete with the big corporations. It helps the human capital development. On services, I attended the first session of the public-private dialogue yesterday morning, and I heard a lot of talking about internet economies, like mobile financing. Trading services over the internet is basically cost-free. An automobile is simply a computer over the wheel. That is something I heard yesterday morning. So it goes without saying that internet economy brings forth risks and challenges, but the benefits definitely outweigh the costs, and it's up to us to steer it well. Before I finish, I recall that in 1996, when the Philippines played host to APEC, I think one major achievement was the strong message issued by the leaders that APEC members unanimously supported the Information Technology Agreement. And this statement was indispensable for the successful conclusion of Information Technology Agreement in WTO. And it facilitated the IT revolution, making a difference in the world economic development. And we have the same hope of the internet economy. So let's work together, China, the Philippines, and other APEC member economies, and let's do it again. I think I must finish now, because we know that, Laura, your style of speaking, as I saw yesterday, is clear and crisp and very succinct. It's not good for a moderator to speak longer than a keynote speaker. So, Laura, you have the floor, please.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Good morning, everybody. The reason I spoke so briefly yesterday because Doris Ho, my counterpart in APEC, said everything that I wanted to say. So what I just said was, okay, let's just think of interstellar, I said. We're going into another galaxy when we discuss services. Before I start, I wish to acknowledge, of course, the presence of Dr. Alan Bollard, the Executive Director of APEC, and of course, the SOM chair in 1996, when we were both 18 years younger. Dr. Poch Macaranas is here. And I wish to welcome my fellow senior officials, my friends from PECC. I've been invited to enough PECC activities that sometimes I forget that I'm not a PECC member, but I feel like I'm part of the PECC family. I think my friend Ed Pedrosa spoke about the experience of the granddaughter of the minister who was who wanted the internet to really work faster. Now, if I may add my own experience, if you look at my the way I was introduced here, it doesn't sound like I am a senior official. It sounds like I'm an education service provider, because everything that was said about me is what I have done in education, and it's true. I put my money where my mouth is. I put up a small school. That's why I call myself the president of that school. It only has 80 students, mind you, but it's nice to be called president of a school. But what I noticed was 2 months ago during enrollment time, I noticed that very few people were calling the school. And I became worried, and I said, what's happening? I said, is it one parent who was so disgruntled telling other parents not to enroll their students? Until I found out that in the Google map, I was permanently closed. So I panicked, and I told my friend in the US and my son, I said, please, I said, tell Google that we're open. And guess what? They said they will verify us, whether what we're saying and who we are is true. And we have to wait for 2 weeks. And they will send that verification notice in the address of the school to find out whether who we are is really who we are. And I said, why is it like that? I said, when somebody closed my business, they didn't verify who he was. And according to Google Places, it only takes 2 persons to close a business. So in other words, it's true that the internet can reach many people at any given time, quick. But I think there should be some regulation somewhere, I said. You just cannot close a business on the Google map. You just cannot, you cannot destroy a competitor, and people think that somebody did that, maybe because my school was becoming so popular that, the competition decided to close me permanently, at least on the Google map. So the internet, therefore, is a service, but unlike other services, it also generates its own economy. One of the key concepts, of course, of APEC is connectivity, and under connectivity, we are discussing services. In its broadest sense, therefore, connectivity of people, of trade, of communication. ICT is the freeway of the internet and digital economy, transporting ideas and services in the same way that traditional infrastructure has moved or have moved goods in the past. ICT makes the world smaller and enlarges our global economy and also enlarges our presence. ICT is no longer a vertical, it is a horizontal enabler, and as such empowers and drives many, if not all, other economic areas. It needs to be appreciated as such. Connectivity through the internet will help bring SMEs to market, improve education and health services delivery, link small farmers to large market, change the way we design, create, and consume products and services, among others. And I think my colleague Tanjan had already discussed all the things that the internet can do and the economy, how it can help business, governments, and institutions. Now, we do need to have a regional response to this economy. The benefits attributed to the internet or digital economy, access to finance, to health, to education, services, and solutions delivery, increased participation and economic activity, increased innovation, and so on, require both disruptive and creative policy response. Those economies that don't undertake the necessary investment and promotion policies to get there are going to be left further behind, and their citizens further challenged. The benefits of the internet economy stand to be far greater than merely the sum of the individual economic benefits, precisely because of the economies of scope and scale that result from interconnectedness and interoperable platforms. Now, I think yesterday we also saw how much the internet economy and services can really do a lot to all of us. One of the things that really amazed us, I think, during yesterday's presentation was the presentation of Mr. Lee when he talked about all the things that he was doing, and he said that somehow the internet was really, providing mobile providers and mobile applications and also mobile gadgets was really one of the, he said, the biggest challenges that he has to face. And the policy and regulatory environment for the internet economy remains in transition. One principle needs to be finding a balance between objective, protecting consumer interests and encouraging innovation, versus overly restrictive policies. Now, such policies will not only rapidly diminish the appetite for innovation in this area, but will also add to costs, especially for smaller businesses. Regional, if not international cooperation is an imperative. The internet economy is borderless. That's why we are glad that we are here, because now we can have a public-private sector engagement on the public sector economy. Now I just want to add also this. I'm glad to be part of the birth of the baby of China. I know the internet economy is one of the babies that they conceived last year. So it's today it's its birthday, Tanjan. So the internet economy is born today, and we hope that from now on, and as soon as we form the Ad-Hoc steering group on the internet economy, we can do a lot of discussions about the internet. Thank you very much, and good morning.
Thank you, Laura. I think, yes, it is a baby, but I also think that it may have a lot of parents. It seems that we have some time for questions, so can I open the floor? If any questions, I think our SOM official would be happy to address. The floor is open.
Can I? It's really interesting. I've been looking at the screen in front of me and I see the camera zooming in on mobile devices and laptop screens. And I hope you're not looking at your Facebook pages or Googling something else while you're supposed to be listening to us up on the screen. So I just wanted to play a little bit with the audience. I had a meeting with someone who provided a software for engagement during such conferences because we always worry that the audience doesn't engage enough, and these are supposed to be dialogues. So let me, instead of having a dialogue, let me play a little bit of a game here. Who here has at least one mobile device with them?
At least one.
Connected to the internet, sorry.
Yeah.
That's pretty much everyone. Okay, I'm going to jump to three. Who has 3 mobile devices? When you got here, can I just quick survey, who used the travel agency or who booked online? Okay, travel agency. Online? That's pretty much everyone. So that's pretty much how ubiquitous this is. Just because I'm looking at Nina Teng and I know that she's from Grab Taxi. Who's used one of the, what would you call it? Not a taxi, a sharing vehicle. What's the new regs? A sharing taxi. Who's booked via either Uber, Grab Taxi, or one of the others? Okay. Well, they're coming to your territory soon, so.
The hotel booking, right?
The hotel booking. Okay, good. I should have probably, if this was a smaller group, we should have asked you to sort of split into different groups. And I just wonder if some of this is generational as well. That was the point that was made to us in Clerk, that the people below 30 do all of these things, and you older folk, they don't care about all of these regulations you people are talking about. So, well, let's see. So have I prompted anyone to think of any questions? Yeah.
We can go.
So if there's no question, we can go to the next session, move on to the next section.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
While we're refreshing the panel table, allow me to introduce the moderator for our first session, which is the role of the Internet in empowering inclusive growth. Our moderator is currently with the Department of Science and Technology, Information and Communications Technology Office as Deputy Executive Director. He also served as Commissioner in charge of the IT BPO Industry Group of the Commission on Information and Communications Technology from 2007 to 2011. He served as the chair of the APEC Electronic Commerce Steering Group from 2011 and 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Monchito Ibrahim. For this session, he will be joined by our speakers, Ms. Bettina Kimson, Mr. Nguyen Huapin, and Dr. Toshi Obi Nakamura.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ed, for the invitation. One word that surprised me this morning is the word software. People still use the word software when a lot of us actually call it now app. Anyway, the March 2015 issue of the CIO magazine highlighted the fact that Australia's digital economy actually is now worth 79 billion, or 5.1% of the country's GDP, making it larger than traditional industry sectors such as agriculture, retail, and transport. And this is actually according to a new report by Deloitte. This is 50% larger than that of 2011. The digital economy is changing from being just what used to be a standalone economy to being embedded in business, government, and society in general. It's getting harder to separate the digital economy from the rest of the economy, and that internet technology today is being embraced everywhere, from healthcare to education, and from agriculture to government service delivery. The internet has definitely transformed the way we live, the way we work, the way we socialize and meet, and the way our countries grows and develop. But the question is, how do we ensure that nobody or no one is going to be left behind? This morning, we're fortunate to have three distinguished speakers to tell us about best practices in the areas of in the use of internet for healthcare services, education, and government and governance. Let me take this opportunity to actually introduce each one of them. Let me start with the lady. My colleague in the Department of Science and Technology, Information Communications Technology Office. He's actually the Deputy Executive Director in charge of e-society. And she used to be very, very active in the private sector before joining government in 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Bettina Kimson. The next speaker, presenter, is actually Mr. Ngoyen Huabin. He founded a PeaceSoft group in 2001 while just being a second-year student. That's fantastic, okay? And he has nearly 15 years of experience in the Vietnam internet economy or industry. And after graduation from the National University with a variety of awards, including, Vietnam Wisdom, scientific research, and he's now holding a master's degree in ICT management from the Osaka City University, Japan. The third speaker is Dr. Toshio Obi Nakamura. He is actually currently professor and director, Institute of E-Government, Waseda University, Japan, and director of the APEC E-Government Research Center, and the president of the International Academy of CIO. He has authored 35 books on ICT, including global e-governance, and is a visiting scholar for 7 universities, such as Peking University and Columbia University. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Toshio Obi Nakamura. So I'd like to call on now my colleague Bettina, but just one house rule, okay? You're actually given 10 minutes to do your presentation. If you go beyond 10 minutes, I'm actually going to be standing up. If you go beyond 11 minutes, okay, I'm going to start dancing. If you go beyond 12 minutes, it's going to be a song and dance from me, and I'm a terrible dancer and a terrible singer. Bettina?
Hi. You're supposed to answer hello. Okay, anyways, so since I have a moderator who's very strict on time, let me go deep into what we're discussing right now. So let's start. It's not there. Let's go back 1, 2. All right. Basically, the Philippines has taken a big step. Basically, the Philippine government has decided to roll out free Wi-Fi for individual use into the rural areas. That's from the 3rd to 6th class municipalities, and that's reaching the poorest of the poor. Why is this happening? Simply because, as we all know, telcos normally don't go into the rural areas because there's no return on investment. So this is a catalytic intervention by the government. So why are we doing this? Basically, we have 12 million Filipinos that are working overseas. So for basic communication, strengthening family values. enable government services to go direct to the people, better disaster mitigation. As we know, the Philippines is one of the largest hit by typhoons all the time. Opening new markets, we're talking about the rural economy. And more importantly, to address the knowledge and digital divide. So today, we're talking about centers. I mean, what's the good of actually having free Wi-Fi all over the country if these poorest of the poor, who is our target, have no devices? So basically what we're doing is we're actually setting up centers all over the country, by which we put in only about 3 computers per center, just to be able to provide that service to the people. So what services are we providing? Basically, we're providing apps, not software applications, okay? We're providing apps for e-employment, e-entrepreneurship, for rural economy, e-government services, e-communities, e-disaster, and e-health. So as we do this, basically education. Formal education is in a classroom. Unfortunately, the Philippines has, from the public school sector, about only 8% of the people that start in grade school in the public schools actually graduate from college. So what does that tell you? There's going to be a very big divide. A greater percentage drops out from grade school to high school. The parents in the rural areas want them to actually go to work, help them in the fields. So basically what we're doing right now is the Department of Education has something called the Alternative Learning Solution, or systems, okay? This particular system actually provides a high school diploma for out-of-school youth and adults. And the interesting part, which I would like to highlight right now, is when we went into a digitized version of this, from a 35% passing rate on a face-to-face training, we actually have gone up to about 70% during a digitized version. Now, why do you think that's happening? Basically, when you're in a classroom, and this I think is universal, when you're in a classroom environment, what happens is when you have your class today, next week, your next class is on a different subject matter. So people that don't understand what's being taught in the first class will never actually catch up when they go to the second class. Whereas if it's digitized, they get to constantly go back and review what they missed out. So this is why a digitized educational system is very essential, at least as far as I'm concerned. So we've done a lot of things, and what we're trying to do in the center right now is we're trying to give this opportunity to the less fortunate to at least get their high school diploma. But the interesting part after this is we have something that's called e-TESTA. Okay, we need more content. It's basically for skills training. So once they finish high school with their high school diplomas, they can now actually take on very specific skills training towards certain jobs. Okay, this is all in the centers that we're setting up. And as you know, the Philippines is the biggest right now for the IT BPO sector. So we're putting in English language skills training. We're actually looking at e-finance. What is e-finance? As I mentioned earlier, we have approximately 12 million Filipinos abroad. When they come home to the Philippines, what happens? The families have used up all the money. There is no savings, so they have to go back abroad. So that's why financial literacy is very important in the Philippines. Then we also have e-literacy, basic skills, computer skill sets, okay? You have a lot of content out there from Intel Easy Steps to Microsoft to HP, all offering these things, and Google has some stuff as well. But the problem is, people ask me, well, if you can get that off the internet, what for do you need the centers? And I said, first and foremost, the centers are for those that don't have computers, but more importantly, I never knew, and I'm from industry, okay? I can, I guess, consider myself an educated person, but I never knew this content was out there, simply because it's hard to find, When you type in digital literacy, does it give you all of these contents? It doesn't. So we are aggregating this to facilitate the people in the grassroots to actually partake in informal education. So here, what's the point of all this education? What's the point of all this skills training? It's basically to move into employment. So specific to employment, we've discussed the skills and education, so we're putting up a job portal. What's interesting about the job portal? Basically, what's interesting about the job portal is the fact that we actually permit people People cannot go to the cities because it costs too much money, okay? If they go to the cities, they don't get employed, they become rural poor. That's when crime rates start going up. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to give them the opportunity to actually take the tests and assessments of the companies in the centers, okay? After that, they can do the Skype calls or the Hangouts by which to have the interviews. And if they pass this, that's the only time they actually do go down to the potential employer, okay? That means 70% acceptance chance. And so when they go down, hopefully they do get that employment. Okay, so all of this, I just want to add one more thing with regards to education. It's also been proven, and I don't know if you know this, that if, say, Ed decides to teach me something, the average person absorbs about 70% of what's being taught to them. Okay, I turn around and teach USEC Laura this, and she absorbs 70%. So what does that mean? By the time I get down to the third person that I'm teaching, actually, the best practice from number one has gone down to a 50% rate from when that person teaches. So that's what's happening in our regular school system. And specifically, I cannot really say that we don't have good people as teachers. The problem is, I myself was not taught Kumon. I was not taught Singaporean math. So how can I teach that to my students now, let alone my grandchildren, you know, as they come around? You know, so basically, this is why the internet education, MOOCs and everything online, the biggest one is YouTube, Khan Academy. I think this is very essential for us to actually be able to uplift the lives of our people in the countryside. Teachers can use the internet. They are critical. They are the first people on the ground that actually do train our schools and our students. So this is the next generation we have to look after. More importantly, as I discussed last night, we have another problem. I was in a forum in Singapore, and in that forum, I was quite surprised when Mercer came out with some statistics. Their statistics was very simple. There are 100 new jobs currently in the industry, okay, that were not there 5 years ago. So now the challenge is to the educational system. How can I figure out what to teach my students on if I can't forecast what type of skill sets are necessary 5 years from now? So we have to be more dynamic in our educational structure. And the best way to do that is through informal ways of education or digitized education. So entrepreneurship is the end goal here, okay? We have rural impact sourcing. It's now called Upworks. You know, this is very big. In Lanao del Norte, there was a classic example. This is down in Mindanao. Fifth class, or I think Lanao del Norte. Okay, it was a third-class municipality. Remaining time, okay? Somebody actually decided to do WordPress, took it online, got a job under Elan's Odesk. At that job, they made 8,000 pesos. Now they're making 19,000 per month. And that's a big impact to the rural areas. So again, agriculture is important. So e-rural economy is our drive. Having said that, that's the end, and thank you very much. I'm below 10 minutes.
Thank you, Bettina. I'd like to call on now Nguyen Hoa Bin to actually present, on the topic cross-border shopping.
Presentation, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here, and my main topic is how to use internet to promote cross-border trade between the APEC economies to close the gap and for pushing inclusive trade growth between the APEC economy, and some case study that we have been implementing in some of the Southeast Asian countries. So, firstly, look at the global e-commerce economy for the last 2 years. We've seen that the annual growth is about 17%, and the world e-commerce value in 2014 has reached as large as $1,400 billion US dollar. the main growth driver is North America and Western Europe are still far ahead of the emerging market. But the domestic e-commerce market of those countries are being extremely competitive. And the seller over there has started moving to export. And APEC country will follow suit shortly. So what is domestic e-commerce and what is cross-border e-commerce? So domestic e-commerce meaning, you know, a seller in a country in a different city selling the goods to the buyer in a different city through the internet, right? But what about cross-border e-commerce? Cross-border e-commerce meaning, you know, the buyers from an economy A buy directly from the seller in economy B. So most the product in focus of cross-border e-commerce is the product that is unavailable or very expensive if buying from A, but it is very available and cheaper if buying from the country B. So in another way of the definition, we can imagine, you know, the image of a cup. Let's imagine this cup is the total retail market volume of a country, of an economy. And the cup is filled up with on the rock that is on brand and on the product which is available locally. So cross-border e-commerce, we can imagine which is the water. We can still pour the water into the full cup of rocks, which is on the brand and product that are not available locally, on the niche of the total retail market of the country, representing for the product that is not available or very expensive locally. So let's look at one example of how, you know, cross-border e-commerce bring about the benefit for the buyer and seller consumer APEC economies. Look at this product, which is professional DJ earphone selling on a local marketplace website in Singapore. The price is selling for about 525 Singapore dollars, which is, you know, inclusive of shipping fee. And as you may see from this screen, is not out of stock too. The same product, if you buy directly from US, you know, the conversion price is only about 308 Singapore dollar, which is 41 cheaper than if buying locally. The only, you know, downside of this is you have to wait about 2 to 3 weeks for the product to be delivered at your home. But that is the benefit of cross-border e-commerce, cross-border retail. So cross-border e-commerce is becoming a trendy now. So if you look at this map, we see the percentage of the cross-border shopper purchased from this country in the past 12 months. So cross-border e-commerce is now accounting for 300 billion every year, equal for 25% of e-commerce, global e-commerce, and growing at 24% year on year versus only 17% growth every year of the whole global e-commerce. So US, UK, and China are now the most attractive, you know, cross-border e-commerce destination. So I would like to use this map to define a new concept of what I call the digital Silk Road. As you may know, for the last 1,000 years, we know about the digital, the traditional Silk Road from Middle East to China, right, for the businessman to trade. Now we are seeing the digital Silk Road. So you can see on the route side, on the route, you know, on the map, it's saying about the cross-border volume from each country to the other country. For example, from US to UK, the US export to UK like 15 billion US dollar in, you know, cross-border retail. From China, export to US is 10 billion US dollar in retail every year. So what is, you know, the big question here is why South Asia on the map? $18.5 billion is a volume of the Chinese shopper shop from the other country, and it's growing 60 to 70% every year. So in South Asia, we see that, you know, South Asian people and, you know, APEC people, they love, you know, buying cross-borderly. So in South Asia alone, we see the big potential of 200 million internet population for the year of 2016, And the e-commerce market may account for 34.5 billion US dollar in 2018, and 30% of those will be cross-border e-commerce. So, but for cross-border e-commerce, we can see that there are some difficulties at this moment to prevent the buyer and the seller from trading cross-borderly with each other. The first one is the payment. The buyer scared of fraud, lack of credit card penetration. Seller don't accept credit card payment from the less developed country like Philippines or Indonesia or Vietnam. Forex risks. The logistic is include the high international shipping fee, custom and duty, shipping and risk. Shipping risk, the customer service, the communication problem, cultural difference, and so on. So those are some category of, the thing is preventing cross-border commerce from, booming in the next few years. So, one of the case studies that we are developing in Vietnam and South Asia is we developed a business model, what they call cross-border retail facilitator. So we do on behalf of the buyer and seller to facilitate the trade between them. So the vision of our job is we want to redefine the concept of importation. If Uber is born to redefine the concept of transportation, then you see that the concept of importation has been staying the same for the last 1,000 years, right? So, but now, we want to redefine that everybody, everyone, every single individual can simply import any legal things between the country without, making use of, the big export-import company. So, we can do that by, doing a lot of, activities domestically and globally to facilitate the trade, the transaction between the buyer and seller. So here we have 10 jobs to make it happen, right? And also we help on the sellers in the other country, like from South Asia to the world, and also the world from China, Japan, US, Korea to South Asia. And we are opening 6 markets and going beyond. So one of the case study, one of the sample case studies that we have just launched, we have just announced last Friday, 15th of May in Vietnam. It is a partnership between 2 countries. So through the matching with a PECC group, we matched the Interpac, which is the largest, the #1 e-commerce company in Korea, with the a local shopping site. We shop in Vietnam. We help to bring close to 1 million genuine products from Korea, from Korean sellers, to Vietnamese buyer, and to help them to do the cross-border shopping transaction in as easy as in 3 steps. First step, they log in the website. Second step, they find the product, and third step, they do a local payment transaction, and they can receive goods at home in only 1 or 2 weeks from Korea. So once again, I would like to conclude that the cross-border e-commerce help to break the border limitation for the consumer, help them to buy many available products with plenty of selection, with good price, and especially peace of mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bean. And this time I'd like to call on Dr. Obi to give us his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for kind introduction today. And after the businessman's academia is not so punctual and efficient to speak on the issues, maybe I need 11 minutes instead of 10 minutes. And moderator couldn't introduce one of the very important careers. That is my stay at La Salle University in 1969 as an exchange student between Keio University in Tokyo and LaSalle in Manila. And that's very interesting for my experience because LaSalle is a playboy university, and at the time it's not co-edo. So we enjoyed the after class, walking around the cities and the nightclub and so on. So that's my impression of the Philippines at the time. So today I'm talking about the issue on the healthcare and aging as the very inclusive growth for internet societies. Maybe you might know some issue on Japan's. Most important issue is a super aging society now. That means 25% of the old population in Japan is over 65 years old. This will continue to grow to 40% in 2050. That makes very important change of the economies. So economic impact, minus impact might be a decline of the global potentials because of the labor shortage and lower incomes. Also, social impact is very important for us to make the heavy pressure on the social security system, especially pensions and, the pensions and also increase of the medical expenses. So we have to make very near future. So Japan might be a very good best practice in the future. Therefore, we made a number of the international activities. One of them is the OECD APEC Waseda conference on these aging issues. We call the Silver ICT in 2012. And we had very good outcome of the conference. Something like we find out the lack of standard or open platform and interoperabilities, which the APEC, because we are using the internet or broadband network as the common platform. Also, we found out the need of the smart connectivity and excellent cyber security issues for internet economies. And also, e-health is a key for economic growth. That we understand among the OECD and the APEC group. So, jump into APEC. I'm the chair of the project on ICT application for people with special needs, aging and disabilities for 4 years. And with a Singapore government, IDA, also a National University of Singapore. So we really enjoy working with the member economies for this healthcare and aging issues. And we have 4 internet economy issues, especially accessibility and usabilities, affordabilities, and some other important factors affecting our aging societies. So topic is very kind of the varieties of starting from just citizen-centric issues, ending the new innovations of the medical cares. This project is still going on, and this year, September 28th, we have the 5th forums in Tokyo. I hope some of you will join us. And our workshop last year was held in Singapore, and the Alan Bollard, he just left, but his opening remarks is excellent, and we really enjoyed how APEC TEL were handling the aging societies. Next is our effort for working with European group. And we had the conference in Brussels in 2013, and we sent the 20 experts from Japan and 25 from European Commissions and the countries. And the topic is how we can work on the innovations on the issues. Then this year, Asian regions and the Europeans group, we are really facing with the health issues for aging people. That's why our project is very popular outside Asia as well. Therefore, we need really sectoral issues. Cross-border is the real issue. If you say healthcare, it's not alone. We need the more comprehensive approach using APEC forums or some other international organization like OECD or EU. So this is one of my real message to audiences. Healthcare is very important, but this is not the issues only. We need the sectoral approach with the full comprehensive dimensions. And I calculated the estimate of market size of the major silver ICT, aging market, especially with ICT entitlement. And we find out the total of the Japanese silver economy is the $200 billion US dollars. But the most important major factor is the e-health and medical equipment. It covers the majority of the expense of the health care and for aging peoples. And as far as I make the joint calculations, statistics on the big data, 2051, the world estimate of the expenditure of the consumption of the aging people exceeds 30 trillion US dollars. That is the biggest single market in the world. So we have to make the more effort on the consolidation of our e-health issues with the all other and nationwide expansion of the medical information collaboration infrastructures, something like this. And I don't think you can read very carefully, but it's my project on the ICT health models, especially for disease preventions for people's concerned. And another project is so-called the expansion of the medical information collaborative infrastructures, just saying the networking all the major hospitals in Japan to share the patient personal health record. So patient can go any hospitals in Japan because of our big data systems to share the issues. So this is our project is going on in Japan, and I hope you have the very similar functions in the future. So there are the silver ICT, okay, issues on the applications, and you can see healthcare. There are a number of the new innovations for applications. So I hope you may think about. One of them might be a robot, especially a hybrid assistive robot. It's very important for a patient to walk around in the places and rehabilitations. And also we have new issue on the mobile communications using smartphone and so on for healthcare. That is the new innovation as well. Then I have been working for APEC, especially APEC TEL for more than 20 years, and PECC for almost same time. And my teacher in Japan, the late Dr. Saburo Okita, he mentioned about the history of the APEC. PECC created APEC, and APEC is become bigger and bigger than PEC. It's quite interesting. So we are very happy about the working with APEC as well as the PEC in Japan. And we need more strong message to APEC leaders meetings from our working forums. That's why I'm interested in some meetings, how they can accommodate many recommendations from each working group. Then, finally, I have two more issues. One is the recommendations. One is building smarter health and aging-friendly communities, because the healthcare is one of the major factors for our human beings in the next couple of decades. Then preventing medicines treatment for healthcare will reduce the total medical expenditures. Our test bed in Japan showing the 30% of the medical expense will be reduced by preventive comprehensive approach by cross-border and inclusive multi-channels, multi-stakeholder initiative for e-health strategy essential for innovative economies. And a pilot project will be key for future implementation and lesson from the best practice for e-health. And next, network of hospital and medical institutions rapidly. And 9 is a challenge of the implementing a whole of healthcare approach to bridge a gap of service in delivery in communities. And last one, okay, analysis of various dimensions of the e-health impact as well as the structural impact of ICT in internet economy. So aging and healthcare is very important issues, not only APEC, but it's a global concern. So I hope from today we may expand our really good communication network to include these issues in any part of the APEC.
I will have to do a song and dance here. I would like to open now. Thank you so much to all the three of these presenters. I would like now to open the floor to questions. Yes, please.
Yes, my name is Toshi Sakamoto, Senior Official, METI Japan. I would like to thank moderator and the three panelists for your excellent presentation today. All were very, very interesting. But my question goes to Mr. Gwen. The question on the public policy and e-commerce. I want to know whether you are facing any regulatory challenges in doing e-commerce, and I want to know your view on what kind of public policies could facilitate the development of e-commerce.
I believe it's now very encouraged by all the government, right, domestically. So, but for the cross-border e-commerce, it is quite a very new concept. So actually, I have to say that for cross-border e-commerce, it has been developed naturally for the last 5 years, without much, meaning, the enterprise to enterprise, signing contract, doing, payment through banks, and, importing containers of goods, and has to follow through all the, complicated inspection and custom procedure, things like that. But with the emerge of internet economy, we see that everybody can buy and sell cross-borderly every single items, not the container of goods, right? So for cross-border e-commerce is to make it clear and things like that. They apply the traditional custom procedure to the package that is import for consumer use, for direct consumer use, because I buy one handphone from overseas for my own use, not for reselling, right? That is different. So this kind of thing is very new to identify, to realize about cross-border e-commerce as a new, new way of trading cross-borderly commodities. That will, will be a big push for, mutual trade between the countries. Yeah, thank you.
Before, even within APEC itself, we've been having a lot of struggle, okay? Talking about within the border, at the border, and across the border is actually not clearly defined. And Ad-Hoc was this steering committee. And I hope a lot of things can actually be achieved by doing that. Peter, your question, please. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
My name is raising of the internet economy. I think technology empowers and it has tremendous potential. The way it disintermediates and allows people to connect directly to each other or to opportunities. But I see sort of a supply-demand problem, and most of the programs that I've been hearing about and most of the discussions I've heard in APEC seem to focus on what the government is doing. And I'd be interested, and just as an example, we had a workshop a couple of days ago, and interesting things happen after the data is out there and other people begin to do things with it. It's not the government limits of government or institutional leading in this. And then if you have any successful examples of where there has actually been uptake or success.
Yeah, I agree with some point by Scott in the United States, and if we have the right informations on the concerned business. So open data is the important economies which we have the very successful story. Because I'm working on the e-government international rankings of the Waseda University as the director, and surveying most of the APEC economies about the open data, also big data. But still, just we started a few years ago, so I don't think we have any outstanding outcome of the open data issues. Still, we have some regulations, we have some issues.
Thank you so much, Dr. Obi. Before I call on, before I give you the floor, I'd like to call on my friend, Peter Lovelock, to, if you your seat first, I'd like to call on the question from the lady over there. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Deborah Elms from the Asian Trade Center in Singapore. And I'm here because I'm interested in pushing APEC as much as possible to be broad and cross-cutting, I guess, as they think about the committee working on the internet economy to think as broadly as possible. We've been running a project on small and medium enterprises in e-commerce space, and the challenges that they face range from the customs issues that you just mentioned, through services challenges, through payment problems. Think holistically about the challenges, especially for small firms working in the internet space. And do remember that it's not just about internet companies or just about the selling of goods. That there are other avenues that you can use for the internet.
Hopefully, put it in the agenda of the working group. Peter?
Thank you, Mon. Peter Lovelock, TRPC. So I've got about a dozen different questions, so tell me when I run out of space. Picking up on the previous question and the comments a little bit, and on Professor Obi's comments, I'll start by you invoked the Khan Academy as one of the internet oriented business models for education. Issue is, as it's cross-cutting and cross-sectoral. The Khan Academy turns the education model on its head, so that a lot of the actual teaching is done when you're doing interaction with teachers and your peers. So if we begin to look at the internet economy questions that we're all beginning to wrestle with here, then we should be looking at those issues when we're talking about the the smart cars was invoked by Ed, I think, at the start of this. One of the many issues we're going through right now, because we have a problem with traffic gridlock in Singapore. The ERP system isn't working. We've got spectrum issues that have to align for the cars. So, and these are a whole range of issues you wouldn't naturally think about in a transportation sector. So if I look at education, if I look at age, are we looking at a regulatory policy making set from DOST into education? Start with the business model one.
Yeah. If I may, I cannot address formal education because that falls under different commissions and departments. But one of the things that I pushed for, even from of our office, it's something that we do recommendations on and work with them on. Now, to me, that's why I focus on non-formal education. That's something that's an open field for a lot of people. High school diplomas, because nobody can get a regular job without high school diploma. So that already ups the ante for most of the out-of-school youth and the people in the rural areas. Second to that, skills training. As I mentioned, in our economy. So how can we put more people into that particular space, okay? Where they don't have to leave home, they can work close to their homes, they have family values sustained and continued, no? So the focus there is, let us give them very specific skill sets that when I was talking 19,000 pesos per month in the rural area, that's equal to $1,000 a month in the main cities. More importantly, the normal average of a person in the rural areas, especially in the fifth-class municipalities, the income is 2,000 pesos. And you're talking now, that's $50, okay? All of a sudden now they're making 200.
Yeah, about education and the human resource development issues on the internet economy. APEC Education Advisor, the academia and the civil societies. Or we can make the more intensive effort at the APEC TEL, which Madam Chair.
Close off on one thing. When we talk about skills training and education, the Philippines is 70% agricultural in terms of land mass, okay? And at 70%, the biggest problem that we have, number one, is farmers feel they know everything. They don't use current scientific tech. Look at the centers that we're setting up. We're looking at a holistic environment. It's a full cycle. In the past, we've done a lot of trainings. It's succeeded. Discuss, you know, because we've all been discussing education.
Dr. Olby, I think, okay, one more quick.
Payments. What seemed to stand out is I don't need a credit. The entire population of APEC who don't need a formal bank account.
Because, you know, they just pay through local preferred payment method to
one last question before we